Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert. It's Monday. Welcome back to the Ted Show. Hope you had a great weekend. I love kicking off my week with somebody I love as much as I do. Debo Ofsowitz is here. We're going to talk about how to be a better ally through compassion. I love this topic. But she's an amazing advocate, an amazing human being, and an amazing friend as well. Debo, welcome. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing great with an intro like that. How could I not be? That's fantastic.
You
Thank
make
you.
it easy because you're you. You make it easy. All right. So for the, I don't know, people who might be living under a rock who don't know who you are, give us a little 411 on Debo.
Okay, I'll try to do it quick, but it's a long story, but I'll try to narrow it down. I moved to Orlando about 30 years ago, and it took me quite a few years after that to come out. I came out kind of late in life, but once I did, I dove headfirst into being a part of the community, volunteering for Come Out with Pride, eventually being on the board of Come Out with Pride, very involved in the Pride Chamber, formerly known as the Metropolitan Business Association. And now I work for 26 Health, a nonprofit community health clinic that has a special focus on the LGBTQ community. So we care for everybody, but we have a special focus on that community. So it's 26 Health, care for every letter, because if it's your letter, it matters.
Yes, which thanks to you, we did an entire show on letters and pronouns.
Yep.
Fascinating. I still get people who stop me about that show and say, I'm so glad I didn't understand and I didn't want to ask. We talk about that a lot, how people, if their fear drives them a lot of times to not ask the questions that you all don't mind answering. Anybody should answer. And so it was a fascinating show. Thank you for helping me spearhead that, because I really do. I get tons of feedback on that all the time. Let's talk about why I love the topic that you chose. Why did you choose to focus on the word ally?
Well, I mean, the truth is, if you believe the statistics, it's about 10% of the population, maybe 12% are LGBTQ. But we cross all demographics. Okay, we're old, we're young, we're rich, we're poor, we're black, we're white, we're yellow, we're in every country and every religion. But there's less of us than there are of people that aren't LGBTQ plus. So we can't do what we do. We can't feel safe in society, and we can't, as much as we want to live as our own authentic selves, like everybody should be able to. We can't do that without the support of allies. And that goes, for every minority. And so that's why allies are necessary.
So let's talk about being an ally, because when you say ally, that would mean somebody who doesn't identify with one of the letters, right? That's usually ally could fall into any of that category. We should all be allies for each other. Right. But in this particular case, somebody who doesn't fall into one of the letters.
Well, and I challenge you to broaden that and think about an ally being a friend to anybody that is marginalized. So that could be, when I say care for every letter, or if it's your letter, it matters. Those letters align with identities, but people's identities go beyond their sexual orientation or their gender. It goes also, into their religion, into their culture. When the shootings happened in Atlanta, I reached out to my Asian American friends and I said, how can I be a better ally to you?
Yes.
So being an ally is really just being a friend and a supporter to somebody that is not getting the kind of support they need because of being in a marginalized community.
So tell me what you think. Do you feel like last 5 years, last 10 years, the ally support, have you felt it to be stronger? What's your perception there? Because when I talk to my kids, they don't remember me growing up in the 70s, let's say. I mean, I was just a baby, guys. No. But the way I feel like the acceptance level has increased, which I think a lot has to do with the ally community. Have you felt that? Do you feel like it continues to grow?
I think it does. I mean, you read a lot and see a lot about the sort of political backlash, but and of course, news outlets like to write about things that get people's juices flowing. But I think in a day-to-day basis, there's a lot more support than not. There's a lot more people coming out of the woodwork saying that, this not only is this okay, but I want to be a part of making more people think this is okay. Yeah.
And I think that I feel like I'll use friend group as a point of reference. My friend group, the number of allies, the number of people who are committed to supporting and inclusion and diversity has just grown exponentially. I feel, and it's the real stuff. I'm discounting the ones that we could spend an entire year talking about people who are disingenuous, but I'm talking about the ones who really, really don't understand. They want to, what did you say? Normalize the marginalized, or you said something about making it so that it is just an acceptable thing, an acceptable part of life. And we don't look at it that way, which is why the letters and pronouns I thought were so important, because it's very difficult for people who aren't in the LGBTQ plus community to understand why that's important. Bringing awareness is another way to bring more allies in. Sure. Educating is a better way. So let's talk about being a better ally. You
Sure.
use the word compassion. Let's talk about compassion and being an ally.
Well, I think, if you think about, because you said your friend group, for example, if you think about your friend group, when something happens, something negative happens to your friend, somebody that you care about, you have compassion for them. You want to do what you can to help them, to support them. So if we have compassion for people beyond our friend group, then we have a sense of caring about what happens to them. And it enables us, I think, better to sort of stand up or respond to like microaggressions or things that we, might recognize out in the community. And I think it's not that hard to get compassion. You mentioned it at the beginning about how people found that show really interesting because it explained things that they were afraid to ask.
Yes.
And if people could just have a little bit of courage to, open themselves up to here I'm kind of paraphrasing Brene Brown here, open themselves up to some vulnerability by having some courage to ask the question, and they're asking it with sincerity, they will really be surprised at how genuine and welcoming and accepting the responses will be. And once they have that kind of a connection, it's so easy to have compassion because suddenly you've made a genuine connection with somebody,
I love the compassion part. First of all, that was the best explanation I've ever heard. That was beautiful. Loved it. I think that the compassion part is there, but I also think, like you said, the questioning part becomes a challenge for people. And so they steer away from things. That's why your advocacy and everyone's advocacy is so important. And part of being an ally is, in one way, shape, or form, being an advocate. So what can we do in our community, tangible wise, to really get involved and be an ally?
Well, I think first of all is reaching out to the people that I think that there are a lot of people that that we know in our lives that are in one of these marginalized communities, but we don't actually spend a lot of time interacting with them. So just reaching out, like I had mentioned, that I reached out to my Asian American friends and asked, how can I be a better ally? And most of them responded with, gosh, thanks for even reaching out. Like that right there made a difference to them. So, and if you don't think that you know somebody, which trust me, you do, but if you don't think that you know somebody,
you 100% do, for the record.
Yes, yeah. But if you don't think that you know somebody, you can also reach out to organizations. I would encourage people to reach out to the center, the LGBTQ Center on Mills Avenue. Reach out to the Zebra Coalition. You can reach out to many organizations, 26 Health. Reach out and ask, how can I be a better ally? And I guarantee you, we'll all find a way to get you, somehow involved. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to give money. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to devote all your time and become a board member. Just having a conversation is a start.
It just having the conversation, educating yourself,
Yeah.
following Debo, looking at the organizations that she's involved with. I think that I actually had some people, not this time, but when we did the letters and pronouns, say, well, I didn't even know there was a Pride chamber. And even if they heard about it, they didn't know that they were allowed to join.
Right. Well, the idea behind all of the minority chambers, which is, or diversity chambers, I think is a better term, and that includes the Hispanic chamber, the African American chamber, the Asian chamber, the Brazilian American chamber. The whole purpose is, it's not just for these members of these communities to do business with themselves. I mean, they're already doing that. It's in order to bring members outside of the community who want to do business with the community into the community. So, people, especially business owners, small business owners and larger business owners, should consider joining as many of those diversity chambers as they feel like they can handle. Of course, I will push for my heart the Pride Chamber, but 26 Health, for example, is also a member of the African American Chamber, the Hispanic Chamber, the Caribbean Chamber, and we're looking at the Brazilian American Chamber as well. So,
well, I think you're right. I think you mentioned being an ally. You reached out to your Asian American friends after the Atlanta shootings. And so I think being an ally, we can cross borders, if that's how you look at it. You can break down these walls, and actually all of the engagement does better for our community. And that's sort of what I want to leave us with, a last question. I feel like Orlando's on the map when people think of inclusion and diversity. I feel like we really are. Is that your sense too? And why do you think Orlando is looked at like that?
Well, a long time ago, a guy opened a place of magic and wonder and fairy dust, and whether he wanted it to be or not, it became a place where a lot of artists and performers could gather. And the truth is, there is a large LGBTQ contingent of the creatives in the world. So little by little over the years, all of these artists gathered in the surrounding neighborhoods and grew. And so the LGBTQ plus community in Orlando and Central Florida grew as a result of that. And because LGBTQ plus does cross all demographics, then what you see is this idea, this concept that we always talk about as LGBTQ people is living authentically. Well, living authentically doesn't just mean being gay, but it means being true to whatever your identity is. So the more that we talk about authenticity, it becomes this domino effect. So first you have this magic land, then you have all these artists, then you have people talking about living authentically, and it just becomes this big domino effect. And then, of course, you can't really have this conversation today, especially this year, without touching base on the Pulse shooting, because that really brought a lot of people who were sort of silent allies, quiet allies, that really made them, they became very vocal. And, our mayor is one of them. Buddy Dyer has always been an ally to the community, but, the Pulse shooting gave him a platform to really kind of shout it out to the world that, this is important. And I know a lot of people reached out to various organizations to, try to support, because unfortunately, often it does take a tragedy to get people to say, oh, I need to get up off my butt and do something.
Imagine that. But you're right. I feel like Pulse just solidified or brought that group together, the ones that were on the fence even, and just made us even tighter as an inclusion diversity community. I say that, and then somebody's going to say, they're going to tell me all the things that are wrong. There are wrong things. We're not perfect, but I feel like we are certainly making progress and doing amazing things on a daily basis.
Look, in the early 90s, the Pride Chamber couldn't be called the Pride Chamber. They had to call themselves the Metropolitan Business Association, because that was a time when Orlando police officers were driving around the parking lot of the Parliament House and taking down license plate numbers and looking up the names of people that were at the club. Yeah. And so and that was just in the 90s, that's not that long ago. And now today you have a police department that is promoting safe spaces for LGBTQ people. And, you have a sheriff that, formerly the police chief, who, has been very involved in promoting diversity and inclusion in the sheriff's office. And you have the former sheriff, who's now the mayor of Orange County, who, promotes diversity and inclusion. And we've definitely come a long way. And of course, nothing's perfect, but we're a lot farther along than we were. And we just have to keep looking forward and having these conversations.
That's right. If you want to have more conversations with Debo, what's the best way for them to reach out to you, Debo, and learn more about what you do and what 26 Health does?
Best is you can visit the website, 26health.org, and you can shoot me an email, Debo, DEBO, at 26health.org. And I promise I will answer. Might take me a few days, but I promise I will answer. And, even though I do development for 26 Health, I am involved in a lot of ways in the community. And, you might be reaching out to me, not specifically to talk about 26 Health, and that's fine. Please reach out to me. I've often directed people to, other places that they can connect.
Fantastic. You're the best. Love you to pieces. Debo, she only needs one name, kind of like Madonna. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing. I really appreciate all you do for me and our wonderful community. All right, Debo.
Thank you.
All right, guys. We'll see you soon. Have a great month.